The Archon class is incredible. With extreme mod damage and mod regen, you can spam some of the strongest abilities and breeze through Apocalypse like it's easy mode. Well, I mean, at least it's easier than it could be. I've created a very fun explosion build that not only worked in Apocalypse, but it also dominated, offering high enough damage to be sustainable in boss fights and one-shot regular enemies at a consistent rate. This is the OP Exploder build, and before we talk about how to set it up, here's a bit of a sneak peek as to what you can do with this bombastic playstyle. Well. You can stunlock bosses with this. That's cool. Yes, it will be possible to stunlock some bosses, and the mods on your weapons will be used more often than the weapons themselves. To start off, we have the two classes. Archon will be the main, as it is built entirely for mod regen and mod power. The class has a prime perk that generates 3 mod power per second. Casting a mod increases all mod generation by 100% for 10 seconds, meaning we get our mods back twice as fast as we normally would. The passives grant 50% more mod damage, 10 mod critical chance, and less cost of mod usage altogether. The class is king when it comes to mods and will grant you huge damage with essentially infinite casts of powerful abilities. The skill you want to use is Reality Rune. This casts a large bubble around you that applies slow to anything inside, enemies, and projectiles. You also gain some damage reduction, which can help you stay alive longer. This skill seems a bit basic at first, but is fantastic in sticky situations, and surprisingly useful for slowing bosses just enough to dodge more easily. For our subclass, we want Medic. Now, technically, the Summoner class grants a bigger damage bonus, but you have to have a summon active to get it, and I found it hard to keep the summons alive very long, so instead, we're going to take Medic for a 25% bump to all damage. All the other perks are just nice for healing purposes, and I'll say that an easy heal on the run is great for boss fights. The skill you should be running is Healing Shield. I found this to be the best skill on the Medic, as it lets you take a full hit in Apocalypse and get an instant boost in healing without the lag time of taking a Relic. Also, it heals allies and comes back at a reasonable time. As an Archon user, I feel it wouldn't be right to not use the Labyrinth armor set. It has a regal look to it that works perfectly for any mod-based build. The fire resistances is the big deal, as we'll be lobbing fire grenades as often as possible, and you can survive a bit longer if you happen to friendly fire yourself. You'll want to use the Resonating Heart for this build. Honestly, you can run with whatever you want here, but this one's pretty handy. Using this one is going to heal you, but if you don't get healed, you'll get double the healing for 20 seconds. As you'll be able to use relics to gain mod power from the Archon class, this is going to let you get healing at a better rate than with most relics, although you will need to get used to using the relic before getting hit and not after. As for the relic fragments, I run mod damage, skill duration, and elemental damage. All 3 increase the total value of our build by granting a damage boost to the fire, a damage boost to the mods themselves, and a longer heal and bubble. Your primary is going to be the Pulse Rifle, a very solid weapon, and honestly, one of the more balanced weapons in the game. Nice range, good amount of bullets, and high damage. Our other weapon has basically no range at all, so this allows us to be okay against flying enemies like the ones on Narud. Also, the gun can be very solid in boss fights if it comes to that. Now, I run Firestorm. While the mod can easily kill you, it puts out a stupid amount of damage, trapping enemies inside it, which stunlocks some bosses, even like the Brain we saw earlier. This mod also does very high fire damage, which will grant us unlimited mod regen due to her ring. On the firing range, you can actually summon 5 of them at a time. It's really crazy. Run Twisting Wounds as the mutator, as it's kind of the best one in the game, granting a 20% damage bump as long as you get headshots or crit damage. Also stacking on Bleed, which over time damage never hurt anybody. I will mention that on occasion you're going to run into bosses that are immune to fire, or that Firestorm just simply doesn't attach to. Switch it out for acid rounds, as that was what I did, and it still kept the mod regen up like crazy. Melee's not an important part of this build, however I have found love, and I've found it in the Krell Axe. A ranged melee that deals shock damage and just feels great overall to use. Also doesn't cover up the character when you equip it, which is 90% of why I ran it. Throwing on Reinvigorate felt like the best option as it reduces the stamina cost of all charged melee attacks by 25%. Throwing the axe takes a huge chunk of stamina out of you, and I do like having stamina when I need it. Now for the main weapon of the build, and one of my new favorite guns, Hellfire. Found on Root Earth almost as soon as you get there, it will shred through the game. The main fire is a short-ranged flamethrower, dealing elemental damage which highly amps up your mod regen when you shoot and applies burning quickly. The gun is incredible for fire and weirdly enough has more ammo than most guns I've used. The mod is what we really are after though, as its explosive shot fires an explosive round that deals a huge amount of damage. You get 2 of them at any time and man do they come back quickly. You're lobbing grenades at enemies. What's not to love? We're then going to max this out with equipment to boost it to be a boss-slaying machine. On Apocalypse difficulty, it cuts out huge chunks of health when fighting bosses, and on other modes, just deletes them altogether. I recommend the Harmonizer mod as it increases mod damage by 20%. I told you, we're going to be maxing this mod out, and, well, here's where we start. At level 10, this is going to generate 25 additional mod power for your stowed weapon, which means Firestorm can be spammed. The synergy between both mods works beautifully and will have you burning the world like a madman. Alright, so this is the juicy part of the video. Amulets and rings provide a lot of power, and there's some really strong options to use for mods. Starting off, we have the Detonation Trigger, increasing explosive damage by 25% and adding over 600 burning damage to any explosion you do. A very large boost to our grenade that's always active. Next up is Blasting Cap Ring, increases explosive damage by 10%. Just a solid buff that really feels necessary when running any sort of explosive. I like to use the Illumini Ring as it increases all elemental damage by 10%. Firestorm does deal a lot of fire damage, which gets boosted here, and the fire damage caused by our amulet will also get boosted. The Stone of Malevolence is necessary as it makes our mods regenerate at a ridiculously high rate. From the fire damage on both mods or the fire from Hellfire itself, you can instantly gain your mods back if you need to. Half the time, the Firestorm just keeps them coming anyway without any effort at all. There's nothing like this ring, as the mod regen feels like cheating. Lastly, we have the Shard Banded Ring. It increases mod damage by 12%. As you can see, all of our rings and amulets increase damage, and that was my idea, as Apocalypse highly inflates boss health. If you try this out on Veteran, well, it becomes really easy. Traits are important, as there is one pretty important one that you need to not take. It will kill you, trust me. Flashcaster comes with Archon, increasing mod and skill casting speed by 50%, allowing us to lob grenades as fast as possible. Triage is from Healer and it helps us heal up faster. Just a solid option that's very helpful. Untouchable is from Invader and it increases evade window by 30%. On Apocalypse, dodging is so important, which makes this feel very important as well. Vigor is for more health, Endurance is for more stamina, and then we've got Spirit for more mod regen, which, I mean, seems like a no-brainer here. Expertise increases school cooldown, and I like Fitness to evade further away from aggressive enemies. Now you do have a full 10 points to spec into one trait that you want to, but let me give you a warning. Do not level into Amplitude. You might think, oh, more AoE with explosives, that sounds pretty great. No, it means anytime you lob a grenade, you die instantly. Firestorm also gains so much distance that placing it anywhere on the map burns you in seconds. This is much better for AoEs that can't hurt you, and for your own mental sanity, please stay away from it. Well, the good news is there's no guide for actually how to play the build. It's extremely easy to hop on and play, and doesn't require almost any buffing at all. Walk into the fight and start spraying mods as fast as possible. If the boss can be stunned in Firestorm, it becomes a joke, and if that doesn't work, acid rounds make your grenade come back over and over. The explosion damage is really high, and will annihilate bosses and peons. I've never had more fun with the build, as it felt great to drop nukes on everything. I'd highly recommend this one as you have so many options to deal damage in combat. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, feel free to leave a like down below. Of course, you may have noticed I used stream footage for this video. I did a very long stream with the build where I just had to show it off. And the footage was pretty awesome, so I figured why not use it? Just try not to use grenades when the enemies are 2 feet from you, and you'll be fine. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.